One of the coolest things I get to do on Studio Jake is interview other authors, guys and gals just like myself who are contributing to the culture, not just complaining about it. And today on Studio Jake, I hope that you like, share, and subscribe right here on the Studio Jake vidcast because I have a great interview today. He's a friend of mine, he's a friend of the channel, and that is author Lou Aguilar. He's the author of Jake for Mayor, The Christmas Spirit, Paper Tigers, and his latest novel, The Washington Trail, will hit bookshelves in August. And here he is today to talk about his new book, my friend Lou Aguilar. Lou, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. It's great
Now,
to be here.
well, and you have been on not just to talk about fiction and books. You and I collaborated because I did this project, I want to say 2 years ago, where
I
we went
remember
over
clearly
bad movies,
in
and
the
we
island
did.
of Dr. Moreau. We did it
Yes,
on.
that was such a great
That was
conversation
fun.
because you and I had a really great conversation about that. And you're still writing. You have a new book coming out in
Yeah.
August. So tell people about how you kind of got started in novel writing and what led you to that direction.
Well, I was and am again a journalist, as you know. I was at the Washington Post. My novel Paper Tigers, which I'm grateful you enjoyed, is about those days. I went from copy boy to reporter. I was like a hero. That's what we all tried to you know. And back then, just so you know, we were so crazy. We were all influenced by the Year of Living Dangerously, the Mel Gibson movie. That was like our little Bible movie. So I want to go to some war torn country and be like Mel Gibson. That's how crazy. Today I go like, God, we were nuts. but anyway, I said, look, I went to USA Today and I started reviewing movies. I was in the Lifelight, and it just got tiresome after a while. I thought, I was talking to writers and actors, and I can probably do this. And actually, I don't think I ever told you this. I did a spec script for an old show that you might remember called The Greatest American Hero.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which as a comic guy, and Bill Catt is like my best friend now in Hollywood. But that was a long time ago. The show was already canceled when I was a journalist. But I did one anyway, and I sent it, and he loved it, and he says you should come out. You come out to Hollywood. So I did, and I became a screenwriter in the '90s, from like '95 to 2005, and and it just, I had a couple of movies made, as like a Roger Corman movie that I wrote about, you know, the late great Corman. But it just it you know, so I came back and I was dissatisfied, and I said, but I still want to write these stories, and a friend of mine wrote a book that became a pretty high seller, and I said I can do that, I can do that. So I and as like you, Sherlock Holmes and Dickens, and I loved. Just loved Dracula. Uh, Three Musketeers. It was
Mm.
my first love. I said, I can do that, and I did, and I found out that all the books that I read, I was able to spill back some of that brilliant, wonderful stuff in my own. I'm not saying I'm a Conan Doyle or Bram Stoker level, but it's been fun and creative and challenging, and people like my books, which I really love.
It's true, and that's actually how we got connected. Was you at the time I was working for the Daily Wire. I was on their marketing team, and I was writing articles for them. And you sent a copy of Paper Tigers to Daily Wire, and someone handed it to me and said, "Hey, would you read this and review it for Daily Wire?" I can't even remember who handed it to me, but and I ended up really liking it. And I think I can't remember, one of us reached out to the other
Uh-huh.
on Twitter at the
Right,
time,
right,
as it was called.
right.
And since then, we've had this great friendship where we can talk
Yeah,
about novel writing and
yeah, because
films and
we're kids at heart, and
exactly, exactly. And now and then I just read you did a Christmas novella, The
Right.
Christmas Spirit, which by the way, if you want to read my review of Paper Tigers, it's still up on the Daily
Wow.
Wire. My review of Christmas Spirit is on my website,
Oh,
studiojakmedia.com.
good.
So
Thank you. I'll have to recheck that.
yeah, yeah, they're both still up, um and I like I said, I think I posted Christmas Spirit twice because sometimes on Christmas so I don't have to work as much. I rehash reviews, so it might actually be on there twice. But yeah, I really enjoyed both of them.
Yeah,
And now
I'm
you,
happy you're happy you like Christmas Spirit. I didn't even think anyone would take it. It was so short. It was like
hmm
just it. But I said, I want to write like a kind of a not Christmas Carol, but kind of a romantic fantasy thing,
hmm
and I wrote it, and it wasn't a short story, and it wasn't a novel. I'm going, and I sent it to, like, and people wanted it, so I said great, and people have enjoyed it. So
It's true. I enjoyed it as well, and I actually think I gave it to a friend of mine who really likes those kind of fantasy, kind of those urban fantasy romance. Because she was really into that, and it's like, oh, I've got something from a friend of mine that I think you would enjoy, and she did enjoy it. I passed it on to someone else who also liked it,
oh,
but
thank you.
and now you've got a thriller coming out, a
Right.
Washington thriller coming out August, and that is the Washington Trail. I've got the cover up right now. And by the way, I love this cover. It encapsulates Washington, especially with the shading that it is. Because I've been to
Thank
Washington
you.
D.C. several times. It's that really nails it. So, tell us a little bit about the Washington Trail and what inspired it.
First of all, if I may, you mentioned the cover, which is terrific, but they asked me, the publisher asked me, what kind of cover would you like? And I should have, like, checked out other. Uh, I read a lot of thrillers, but I never pay attention to the cover, and I get them in hardback. So I said, oh well, guns and beautiful girl and car turning, and they just listened to me and said, this guy's crazy. This guy's good. Hey, this isn't a James Bond poster. They told me that. So then they showed me this, and I said, perfect. Perfect.
Mhm.
And yeah. Uh, but I'm sorry. What was your question? But
Oh, I said, what inspired you to write it?
oh, okay. Well, I've always loved detective mysteries. I've always loved them. I like you again. You know, I grew up reading every Sherlock Holmes story, and
Mm.
even the ones not written by Doyle, like 7% Solution. But just one. And then I read Dickens and Bleak House and Mystery of Edwin Drood and the Moonstone, and then I went to the Maltese Falcon and
Mm.
the Big Sleep, and just, I mean, and that's I was totally lost with the American, and Ian Fleming, of course. Ian Fleming, who James Bond was an answer to all the foppish English heroes. Kind of like not quite a feat. Like, they were fine, Simon Templar, Lord Peter Wimsey, but Ian Fleming said, "I'm going to bring the guts back to," and I love that idea, and I loved his books. So when I finally got around, well, I had a choice, Jake, and that was, I was going to write a big Hollywood epic because I've been writing about Hollywood, and I know it, and I know the studio system, and I know the movie. So I wanted to write a big, major Hollywood epic from 1927 to 1980, something like that. And but a friend of mine said, "Well, you should think about, you've been doing journalism and politics and culture." And so I did. I decided to finally write the my version of the great American mystery thriller. And my God, it was tough, man. I mean, it was tough. It was, I thought I could do it in, it wasn't Christmas Spirit. It was 2 years. I thought I could do it in 1 year, and I had a lot of other stuff to worry about. But I realized that it's such a tough. I mean, my respect for the Raymond Chandlers and the Dashiell Hammetts and the Agatha Christie's, all the has just, it was already pretty high, but it increased because not only must they tell an interesting story that'll hook you and it'll keep you going, but you have to leave clues, and the clues have to make sense, and it can't be like, who's this character who just walked in? He's the it has, and boy, and that I was fortunate to get a a good endorsement from Andrew Clavin, who
Mhm.
was one of the great mystery writers, one of the great hardboiled detective writers of all
Oh,
time.
100%.
Yeah, and I mean, just an incredible writer. And I said to him, I said, again, he gave me a wonderful. In fact, his I don't know if you have it or if you showed it, but his thing was, if any, it was very short. If any city needed a couple of tough guys to break some kneecaps, it's Washington D.C. You know, and anyway, that was great. But I said to him, how you do one of these a year? How do you do one a year? I mean, of course, the guy's like a master at it. And he goes, look, man, a year apart is tough. I mean, it's tough.
Mhm.
He said outline, outline, outline. That was his thing. Um, but I did it, and I'm really happy with it. And I thought, of course, having a political slant to it, to a private eye. My idea, Jake, was uh, the most trivial case possible, which is basically there's two private eyes. One's an ex uh, Army Ranger, the other guy is an ex FBI analyst. So they're there's a little, I won't say lethal weaponish, but the idea of one guy being, like a bionic tough guy, and the other guy being, tough and manly, but not physically, formidable.
Right. Tango and Cash, kind of.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Both those guys look both those guys look pretty badass to me.
That's true.
but but anyway, and the fact that we're talking about Tango and Cash, people are going, what who the hell are those guys? But anyway, so I said only in Washington D.C. can the most trivial case come aboard. Like in this case, it's a beautiful co-ed from the University of North Carolina who shows up at their office and says, my boyfriend doesn't want to see me anymore, and I want to find out why. Just and and one of the guys wants to say, look, we're not the right, but the other guy's looking at her, goes, no, well, this is a really important case. We got to take this because she's so hot. And
Right.
we go from there. I said, how high can I bring this case? How high can I, World War III? Well, not quite, not quite, but I had fun, elevating, raising the layers to really, the end of America, basically. So that aspect of it was fun.
Mhm. And, why did you pick I'm curious about the title, the Washington Trail, because I'm guessing it's because it leads from, like you said, it gets bigger and bigger, and it takes our detectives on one thing after the other until it
Thank you.
gets to the crescendo?
Thank you for asking it. Originally, it was called the Apocalypse Mask.
Mm,
Which I wanted to do something like the Maltese Falcon or the Brashier doubloon. But I wanted something like that. But then the publisher goes, look, the way publishing is, hopefully this will answer your question in
mhm,
my convoluted way. The publisher goes, everything is itemized now. So as you know, as a writer, when people look up your book, they'll go fantasy, fairy tale. They will now look up by words. You can't just do a book anymore. Now it's like, a young adult. There's like 20 layers of descriptions of. So the publisher said, Apocalypse Mask. People are just going to think it's either like a science fiction or a horror or a Christian you know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
And so okay, so Washington Trail has a. I know it sounds kind of like what is it? But it has a double meaning. One is that it's a trail of the case, basically. The trail. Weaving trail and following and people. And two is that one of the two one of the main guys loves westerns.
mm,
He's a western fan, so instead of like the Oregon Trail, you have like the Washington Trail, where like if you know your business, if you know there's Indians out there, and I get, I know I'm saying things that people can't say anymore, whatever,
Hey, you can
Native
say it on
American.
Studio Jake.
I
It's
know,
fine.
God, that's why I'm here, man. Yeah. Cowboys and Indians. It's funny, Jake. I watched a movie. I watch TCM all the time. I mean, as you know, I write about it all the time. And I watched a movie where the kids, the two children, two boys, are playing. They're welcome to our tribe. Like the adult goes in their tent. How and I'm going like, it's so innocent and so sweet, and those kids would be like lambasted. So I mean, you couldn't even,
Hmm.
you know. But yeah, my hero loves westerns, and he thinks in terms of the Army Ranger guy. So he simplifies everything. Okay, that guy's an Indian. Good guys, bad guys. In politics and in political correctness today, which is kind of the fun. And I hope that clarifies it, but it probably confuses what your question even more.
No, not at all. It makes sense. And I'm wondering because it doesn't say it's not just called the Washington Trail. You've got a little subtitle to it with the two main characters' names. Is this a potential series that we're going to see from Lou Aguilar?
Okay, and thank you for asking that one. When I wrote this mystery, I'm going, boy, I'm glad I got. I've always wanted to write an American detective story. A Philip Marlowe, Mickey Spillane, Sam Spade, yeah, and now they all, I've been reading. The, do you like the J.K. Rowling? I never read the Harry Potters. Did you?
I was not allowed to. I was a pastor's kid.
Oh, right, right, right. Well, yeah, I know that aspect, but she's
But I am
got
familiar with them, if but
me
just
too,
not read them.
me too. But she's got a series of adult mysteries. Cormoran Strike is her detective. Guy named Cormoran Strike, and the books. I'll show you one,
Oh, nice.
and they all and Andrew's books. Andrew's books are a Cameron Winter novel.
Right.
I thought, hey, I'll be cool like those people. I mean, who the hell are J.K. Rowling or Andrew Clavin? I can do that. Uh, but anyway, I wasn't going to do that. It was just going to be a standalone one book, The Washington Trail, no Cork and Slade. And then I went to which I told you about this publisher, Aethon Books, and they're really good. Aethon Books, Aethon, and they specialize in science fiction. In fact, that was it. That was their bread and butter.
Hmm.
And they've got one by Lou Diamond Phillips actually.
Oh, nice. The
Yeah,
actor?
yeah, the actor.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I love it. He was great in oh, what now I'm going to forget the name. Longmire. He played the main character's best friend in that film in that TV show. It
Yeah,
was a really good series.
yeah, and of course I knew him from like Bad Guns or whatever, and
Yeah, Courage Under Fire. That's
yeah,
another
yeah, yeah,
good
yeah,
one.
yeah, and he's like likable guy. Anyway, Aethon Books is really good, and I got a newsletter saying that they were expanding to thrillers,
Mm.
and I had just finished it, and I sent it, and they loved it. Again, of course they were more perceptive than other no, and then so I said, okay, good. I can go to my big Hollywood, I can move on to my big Hollywood epic novel, and then the owner of the publisher says, we do especially well with trilogies.
Oh.
Yeah, we do. And that's our bag is our we contract for three.
Mm.
So could you do two more of these? And I go, oh sure, oh yeah, no piece of cake, like oh my god, like, I mean, I guess they're gonna see this interview, oh yeah, yeah, sure, so okay, we'll take this one, no problem. Contract for three, so it's like on the contract it says book one of three, like oh man. So I got to come up with yeah, I love the characters, but again, clues and mystery and dead bodies and how how guys like Conan Doyle did it. Like what, 80 stories and four novels, and you know
It's amazing.
the Speckled Band and the Redheaded League and the Scandal. It just the genius, and without internet, may I add, because again, you look at Raymond Chandler, you see descriptions of fashions and places and knowledge, the esoteric. I mean, you and I think both have. We read a lot, so we know a lot. But sometimes it's like, wow, like you got to go to the library, but yeah, anyway. So I again, it's you have an innate talent, as you do. I'm sure people know that you're a great, fun writer yourself of
Oh,
fantasy,
thank you.
and I've got your brand new one, the Little Red Riding Hood one, which I'm looking forward to. Even although it's huge, it's like, um, anyway, so yeah, and if you have like an instinct, and sometimes you do something and you write something, and you go, wait, no, that wouldn't happen, or then you realize, then you hit something, and then you're lucky enough to have a good publisher with a good editor. For instance, and I'll give you an example. There's a again a writer can't think of any classic like The Big Sleep, or anything by The High Window, anything by Chandler. Of course, The Maltese Falcon and Red Harvest, and you and they're masterpieces. They're great, but you don't think you can't think of things. I wrote a scene where, okay, not to give anything away, but there's several villains. There's a right wing group, secret, and there's a left wing group. So people go, "Who, boy, is he conservative? Is he?" I'm hoping people will say that. Is he a conservative? Is he a liberal? Well, that's what you go for, because if you put it all out there, you're a clown, right?
Right.
Like all the Hollywood stuff that I've been slamming in my criticisms, like, you know, who's the murderer? Oh, it's this white supremacist Christian guy, right? Oh, he's the killer, right? Well, great, but one of the villains is a extreme climate, you know, environmental group, and at one point, the environmental group, not to give anything away, they have my hero tied to a post in a barn, and I wrote this, and this is the book I submitted, tied with rawhide, because it's a barn, rawhide, and he's tied, and he can't, and he says, oh, rawhide, and I submitted it, and the editor says, hey, wait a minute, they're climate activists. They hate cows. They wouldn't have they a simple thing like that I didn't even think of. They wouldn't have rawhide.
Mhm.
They would hate
That makes
rawhide.
sense.
Yeah, you
Right.
wouldn't think of it. I wouldn't think of it. But this guy did. So it's a combination. It's a partnership, really.
Mm.
But if you're good and you have talent and 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 enough internal material to put it out there, then I think that's a big help to a book, and this one has it. And the fact that I was shocked, because as I said, it took me 2 years, and I said, you know, this Biden guy can't last. He can't last. It just he's falling. Which I've been writing about, the again, not to get political, but a lot of liberals saw the debate, and were like shocked. I mean, what? No, this guy's a Columbo. What happened to him?
Mhm.
But we weren't shocked. We saw it, and so I saw it, and I said, yeah, this guy's going to be falling apart. And then this guy, and he just barely announced that he was running. Everyone knew Trump was going to run again, and I said, so in a year this will be the situation. And sure enough, until last weekend, I had it down. This was the situation: was one guy winning in the polls, and the DOJ doing everything to stop it. Basically.
Mhm. That makes sense. And so, tell everyone where they can get it and when it is coming out. The
Thank you
Washington
for asking.
Trail.
It's coming out. By the way, it's coming out. I think I have to look August around August 15th. It's
Mhm.
whatever Tuesday that is when books come out,
Okay.
right? And yeah, it's coming out really soon, and I'm very pleased with it. But they're taking pre-orders now, and the publisher tells me that pre-orders are vital. I mean, to the success of a book. I mean, crucial. So I would appreciate anybody who wants to, a fun read to get it, and and maybe let you or me know what they think of it, and if they're anywhere along my upcoming book tour, which is going to include at least. Are you in LA, by the way?
I'm in Phoenix.
Oh, Phoenix, beautiful. Well,
Beautiful but hot.
yeah, yeah. I'd love to do a book tour that would go to Phoenix.
Oh, please do. And by the way, everyone, if you want to pre-order Lou's book, which I highly recommend that you do, like I said, I've read Paper Tigers and The Christmas Spirit. I love both of them. I will put the link to the pre-order page in the pinned comment of this video. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Rumble, I will also have it linked somewhere as well. So be sure to click on that link so you can pre-order it. As Lou said, it is vital to the release of the book.
Thanks very much. And it's Amazon, and it's in Barnes and Nobles, and it's just I'm thrilled. I've joined the ranks of I've joined the ranks of my heroes, at least with a mystery of and there's again how these people put out so many so great. I hope I got to write two more. Hopefully they'll be great also.
I'm sure there will be. Lou, thank you so much for
Oh,
coming
thank
on.
you, Jake. No, thank you so much, very much. And we'll I don't know what our next talk will be. It'll probably be about I don't know. I can't do comic books like you do. Oh, but by the way, if I may, can I add one more thing or not?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. In the very in the very first chapter, my hero walks into a comic book store, and he's this tough guy detective, but he's also so he walks in the store and he sees the clerk, and the clerk goes, "Hey, Mark Slade, I haven't seen you since Professor X died." and 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 my guy goes, "And you know why, Claude? Is Thor still a chick?" Like, yeah, I thought you'd like that. That's why I
Oh,
mentioned.
I love that. Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, everyone, have a fantastic day. And Lou, thank you once again for
No,
coming
thank you,
on.
Jake. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Luke, for joining me today. And to everyone else, I hope that you like this video, share it out to our friends, leave me a comment, tell what you think, subscribe, and if you're watching on YouTube, become a channel member. You can ring that little bell, you get notifications, but also as a channel member, you get all kinds of cool perks. If you don't want to support me with big tech, and it doesn't matter where you're watching from, whether it's Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, or here on YouTube, just click on my locals community. The link is in the description. You can give me tips for the articles I post there or sign up for monthly subscriptions. Or you can purchase one of my books. This is my newest one, Blessed Child. It's a fantasy novella that I think you will enjoy. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.